If you've never watched my videos, my name is Kamara, and I'm going to be talking about my labor, my pregnancy, and my delivery. So 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I had my son, and it was very difficult for me to get pregnant with my son. I had to have ovarian cyst removal surgery, so that thought I couldn't get pregnant. That was a whole scare. I have a video about that. Just trying in general, the heartbreak of constantly seeing a negative pregnancy test, like, oh, heartbreak. That's also another video that I have. So I didn't want to rush into having another kid because I knew that I would have to try, and I didn't want to constantly see those negative pregnancy tests because, like I said, that is such a huge heartbreak, heartbreak. So when my son was around 15 months, my husband introduced the idea of having another baby. I was like, yo, slow down. No, we ain't doing that. I'm not ready. Fast forward to when my son was about 19 months, I was like, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and have another baby, but we'll wait like 7 months because it was February at this time. So I was like, let's go, maybe like around September. Our son will be older. I'm almost done with school. Let's wait till then. But I was actually pregnant when we had that conversation. And I found out a couple weeks later that I was. And I was excited. I was so excited because I didn't think I could get pregnant on accident. I didn't think it would be like, boom, pregnant. I thought I had to try. And I had to go through actively taking, like vitamins, supplements, to really help me get pregnant. And alhamdulillah, that didn't happen this time. So I was so excited to be pregnant. And the way I got pregnant, I scheduled my doctor's appointment. I kind of get a doctor's appointment with my regular doctor for some reason. I can't remember why. I was like, okay, not a big deal. I'll just get a different doctor. I scheduled it with her, this new doctor. She gives me a questionnaire. Talks about my race, talks about my weight, my medical history, and what type of birth I want. So I put a VBAC because I wanted to have vaginal birth after C-section because my first was emergency C-section. So when I see the doctor, she's like, hey, so I noticed that you want to have a VBAC, but because you are Black and because you are considered overweight, you have like a 49% chance of a successful VBAC. So if you do try for a VBAC, you could die or your baby could die. I was like, what? And she kept reiterating because I was Black. That was the main focus of the conversation. Me being Black is going to kill me. That's basically how I took that. She didn't even give me the percentage of the likelihood of dying from a TOLAC, which is trial of labor after C-section. And none of that. So I'm sitting here thinking I'm going to die or my baby's going to die. But I don't want to have another C-section because that is a major surgery. I don't want that. But I have to have that because I'm going to die. So I get out of the doctor's appointment completely in shock and numb. So I call my family and, everyone's telling me pregnancy has its risks. Labor has its risks in general. No matter what you do, you could die. And I was like, that's true. And so I started doing some research about VBACs and everything like that. And I find out that it is less than 1% chance of something going wrong and dying. Either you dying or the baby dying. Less than 1%. So either way, it's a very small percentage of a fatal, issue. So that made me feel better. But I was still very paranoid. Unfortunately, I couldn't get another doctor's appointment until my second trimester because my husband and I already had plans to fly out to Michigan for the summer. I couldn't really enjoy my first trimester. I was so scared. I already have anxiety. So I was so scared of being pregnant and having to go through birth because to me, it wasn't going to be a good experience no matter what. Either I was going to die or it was just going to be a bad experience. So I was not excited. Fast forward to going to my doctor's appointments, going back to my original doctor, which was great. She made me feel very comfortable and very confident in having a VBAC. So she says that there are risks associated with it, gave me the percentages, gave me the risks, and said that we're going to do everything possible to help you achieve that VBAC, and we are going to schedule a non-stress test later in the pregnancy. once I started the non-stress test, my daughter barely passed. Like, there were times where I had to go to the actual emergency room because she was just not meeting the requirements, and I had to be there for several hours until she met that requirement. So after going through that, I was like, I'm going to have another C-section because, you know, I just had a feeling that I was going to have another issue where the baby's heart was just declining too much. So fast forward to going through labor. The day before that, I was like really nesting. Like, I was like, I got to get this stuff done. And I was like nesting like crazy. And so at 3 o'clock in the morning, I start contractions, and they start getting more intense and more intense. And by about like 7 a.m., I'm in the hospital. My doctors and my nurses were very supportive. You know, they were giving me balls, helping me change positions. I was standing up, I was walking around. You know, things were going so smooth. And I was like, wow, you know what? I might actually have this VBAC. But I was getting really tired. I was getting so exhausted. Like, I did not have energy anymore. And I was like, I just want to sleep. I just want to sleep. And my original plan was not to have an epidural. I wanted to do everything completely opposite from what I did with my first child, because I was like, I don't want to have a C-section. But I was so tired, and the pain was getting so intense. I was around 7 centimeters, and the pain was just getting so intense. And I was like, you know, I just have 3 more centimeters to go. You know, I could do it. And the hospital was full of women that day. Everyone decided to go into labor December 3rd. So the anesthesiologist was very busy. And I was remembering, I was like, man, the last time I had an epidural, I was able to knock out. I was able to get so much sleep. So I was fighting whether I wanted to have an epidural or not. And I asked the nurse, I was like, so what kind of pain medicine do you offer? She was telling me the pain medicine, I don't remember, but all the pain management that I could have. But she said I could only have one. They don't mix it, I guess, at that hospital. And I was like, dang, so I can have this pain management, but it's not as effective as an epidural. Then she was telling me, but if I wanted an epidural, she would advise that I get it now, because if it gets too intense, she can't guarantee that I could get it at that moment, because there are so many women who are already opting in to have an epidural. So I was like, dang, might as well get it. You know, maybe I'll be able to go to sleep. So I get the epidural, and I am able to relax, you know, but her heart is still declining and not rising to an appropriate amount. It's declining, but not like an emergency. But it's not rising quick enough. So this has been going on, you know, since I went into labor. So my doctor comes in and she's like, hey, you know, I don't want it to go into an emergency C-section. So I just want you to be aware that the possibility of you having a C-section seems pretty likely right now. We're still going to do everything that we can to get you a VBAC, but, you know, let's try, you know, moving you around some more, and we're going to monitor you for the next hour and see how it goes. So my nurse is in there helping me move positions, giving me this peanut ball, like literally helping me get into every position possible. And she was so helpful. Like, I love my nurse. She was so helpful. But we were still seeing this decline with a not a quick enough rise in her heart rate. So the doctor comes in after like an hour, and she's like, hey, let's get you in for a C-section so we don't have to have it to become like an emergency. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I figured that was going to happen, so like, let's go ahead. I was really sad at that point. Like, I knew it was a possibility, and I had a feeling that I was going to have another C-section, but it was still very sad to me. Like, you know, like I'm crying a little bit, but I'm like, you know, everything happens for a reason. Let's go ahead and go in there, because I don't want to have another emergency C-section. So my husband gets dressed, and we get carted off to the OR, and he's sitting down on on this chair outside of the room because they want to prepare everything. So I was like, yo, like, is my husband coming in? Because he wasn't able to come in last time because everything happened so quickly. And they said, yeah, we're going to bring him in. We just want to get you set up. So they set me up. And what really irritated me about the OR was they didn't tell me what medicine that they were giving me. I was under the impression I was only going to get the epidural, some more epidural. But they also gave me Zofran. I didn't know they gave me Zofran. Zofran makes me so drowsy. Like, I can't control myself and I just fall asleep. Like, it makes me so sleepy. So I wish they would have told me that. they hook me up to the machine, and as soon as they hook me up to the heart rate monitor to listen to the fetal heart rate, her heart rate drops down to 50, and then it starts declining. And they're like, oh crap, this just turned into an emergency. Like, we need to get the baby out right now. Call the NICU, call the other nurses. We need to get this baby out right now. The doctor talks to the anesthesiologist, was like, yo, is she numb? Because I'm about to cut her open. And I'm thinking, y'all love, please let me be numb. Like, I don't want to feel that. Please let me be numb. So she does a test, and I'm numb, alhamdulillah. So they cut me open, and I'm like, wait, where's my husband? Like, I want my husband to come in. They're like, we can't guarantee that, but we'll see. So they start cutting me open, and I was like, I really want my husband. So they bring him in. I'm all cut open, blood everywhere, organs, all showing, and he had to walk past that. Amir hates blood. He hates seeing all that stuff, but he was able to walk past it without fainting, come to me, hold my hand, and be, that support that I really needed. So here's where the Zofran issue comes in. I start getting really, really drowsy, and I don't know what's drowsiness that I'm feeling, because like I said, I didn't know that I was getting Zofran. So I'm feeling like I'm slipping away. Like, I thought my life was going, like my soul was about to come out of my body, and I was just thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna die. So I started saying my shahada, and I was like, this is crazy, like, and I'm fighting to keep my eyes open because I legit thought I was going to die. It was such a scary moment for me, like, I can't even describe it, but I thought I was going to die. And then I started feeling really nauseous. And I tell the anesthesiologist, I was like, I'm going to throw up. I feel like I'm going to throw up. And they were like, oh, that's weird because we gave you Zofran, so you shouldn't feel nauseous. And I was like, you gave me Zofran? I was like, the side effect is drowsy, isn't it? They said, yeah, but you shouldn't feel drowsy. I was like, no, I feel drowsy because any medicine that has even a slight rare chance of making you drowsy is going to make me knock out. Like, I will knockout, can't operate machinery kind of knockout, like shouldn't even be up and moving kind of knockout. So I was like, okay, that's why I feel like I'm about to die, because I'm just extremely drowsy. So they give me more Zofran to help with the nausea, but the nausea stays, and I'm just fighting to stay awake because I want to see my baby. In the C-section, you can't feel pain, right? You feel the tugging, you feel the pulling, you feel the ripping. You feel all that, but you don't feel actual pain. But for some reason, my body was reacting as if it felt pain. Like, my body was clenched, my legs felt like they were crossed, but I know my legs couldn't have been crossed because I was really that numb. Like, I couldn't move my lower body at all. But it felt like my legs were crossed and my toes were clenching. Like, my body was reacting as if it was in pain. And I know it wasn't, but let me tell you, like, it was reacting. Like, I knew I was in pain. Like, I knew I was in pain, but I wasn't in pain. I don't know how to describe it, but it was such a weird feeling. I have a picture, and in the picture, I look like I'm in so much pain because, like, I felt like I was, but I didn't actually feel the pain. It was weird. So I finally get the baby out, alhamdulillah, and she doesn't make a noise when she comes out, which freaks me out even more. So they go take her over, check her heart rate, and alhamdulillah, I hear her cry. Then I start crying, and then, oh, there you are, there you crying. I know. Oh, okay, mama. Okay. So, Amir goes over, see the adhan and the comment in her ear, and then they bring the baby to me. I see her, I kiss her. I'm just so relieved to finally have that done. And then I hear the doctors, so they're stitching me up, sewing me up, and everything. And I hear the doctor say, did we count the sponges? And the nurses and everybody's like, no, we didn't. We didn't count any of the sponges. And they said, oh my God, get an x-ray over. Let's make sure we have all of our sponges and we didn't leave anything in her. And I'm just thinking, I hope you didn't leave anything in me. Well, I hope you didn't leave anything in me. Like, you just sewed me all up. If something's inside, you gotta open me up again. Like, that's not fun. So now I'm freaking out because I think I have sponges, stuffed inside. And the doctor's, reassuring me. She's like, so we don't think you actually have sponges, but because of protocol, we have to have x-ray. We counted all our sponges, and based on the packaging, we have everything. But just to be sure, we need to get an x-ray. So alhamdulillah, the x-ray technician comes in. I don't got any sponges or any other equipment inside. So they cart me off to recovery. And during recovery, I'm trying to fight to stay awake because I still haven't held my baby yet. So I'm fighting to stay awake, but I'm still nauseous. And I just, and I just want to sleep. So they finally bring her over to me. I get my skin to skin, and I finally get to breastfeed. And alhamdulillah, she breastfed so easily. Like, she latched on so quick. And it was such an amazing experience. Like, that first moment of your baby latching on. Oh man, like, I can't even describe it. It was exactly like the healing that I needed from that experience. So I finally go to the recovery, like they're carting me off to the room that we're going to be in. And they hand me a throw-up bag because I already told them before that I was very nauseous. So they hand me a throw-up bag as they cart me off. And I was getting real motion sickness, like really, really sick. So I told the nurse who was carting me, I was like, I'm feeling really sick. Can you take a break for a second? Like, stop pushing me for 1 second. And Amir is holding all of our bags. His hands are full, so he can't get the baby. And I'm holding the baby in one hand, and I have my throw-up bag in the other. And then I just start throwing up everywhere. And I'm trying to, like, keep her out of the way, and I'm throwing up. And there's throw up all over my face, all over my neck, all over my clothes. And I'm just like, oh my God, please don't throw up on the baby. Don't throw up on the baby. I like keep throwing up on the way to the room. Once we get inside the room, I throw up even more. So they're like, yeah, that's a side effect. Hopefully you feel better. We're not going to give you any food because we don't want you to throw that up. So at this point, I haven't had any food or water for over like 12 hours. And I was starving. I was hungry, but I was very sick. I think the next day I was still throwing up. I was throwing up until the next afternoon. And they kept saying, do you want Zofran? I gave you some more Zofran with the nausea. And I'm like, no, I don't want any Zofran because I want to be out of it. And I don't want to spend my first few days with my baby unaware of everything. So I dealt with the nausea and the throwing up for about a day and a half. And then, alhamdulillah, I got back to normal. My, biggest thing was trying to get better as quickly as possible so I could leave the hospital because I had Sully at home with my brother. And I was like, I need to get home to my other baby. Like, I can't stay in this hospital for more than I need to. So we ended up staying 3 days, 4 nights, alhamdulillah. And I was, forcing myself to get up, to walk to the bathroom by myself, to make sure I use the bathroom, take showers, did everything I could to show them that I'm capable of going home. So they send me home after we get cleared. I get cleared, the baby gets cleared. But then we get home, life is different. I still have a toddler to tend to, but Amir, he was here, but he was still working. So I felt so guilty that he had to deal with working, he had to cook, he had to clean, and he had to deal with the kids. And I was like, I need to do something. So I'm getting up and walking around and trying to help my son, getting the baby, doing all these things. And he's like, yo, just sit down, relax, right? So I ended up kind of tearing my stitches on the outer side, and it was kind of open. So I made a doctor's appointment. So this was about a week, almost exactly a week later. So I ended up making a doctor's appointment to be seen that same day that I noticed that I opened it. And she said, yeah, it opened a bit, but thankfully inside of the incision is already sealed. So it's just going to heal over. So now the scar kind of protrudes out of it. But it's healed perfectly fine. But thankfully my mother-in-law ended up coming a week later. And that really helped. But after I had my daughter, I was really out of it. I felt really numb. I mean, I had a connection with my baby and everything, but I just felt I don't know. I couldn't really process what happened to me. And to me, it was very intense. There was a moment where Amir was holding my hand, we were laying down on the bed and he was holding my hand. But the way he held my hand was the same way he held my hand in the OR room. And as soon as he touched my hand, I shook and had a flashback of being in that OR, being in that situation where I thought I was going to die, where my body felt like it was in pain, and just the mental and emotional stress that I went through during that time. And I just started kind of screaming and crying. And I was like, oh my God, that was just so horrible. That was a horrible experience. And I was telling my mother-in-law about this, and she said, yeah, it does kind of sound like PTSD. Let's do EMDR on you. So my mother-in-law is a licensed counselor. She has her master's in like counseling psychology. So she was like, let's do EMDR, which is a type of therapy that helps with like processing trauma. So that's what we did. And I ended up doing it maybe about like 10 days later because I was avoiding it. I don't know why. I was just like, I don't want to think about it. I'm just going to push this trauma to the back of my mind and not think about it at all. But she finally said, Kamara, we're doing EMDR. You're going to sit down and we're going to get this done. And I'm so glad I got it done. Like, it really, really helped me process. Like, it was hard, reliving it over and over in that moment. But the more we talked about it and the more, like, we processed it, the easier it became to talk about it and to think about it. So, like, thinking about it now, like, I could laugh about what happened, I could even talk about what happened without, like, crying. But before, I couldn't even talk about it. Like, I would break down talking about what happened and, like, going through the delivery that I went through. And I was like, man, everyone should get EMDR after they give birth, But it was such a great experience. Like, I'm so glad, alhamdulillah, that she told me to do it, and we did it. And I'm glad I did it with someone that I trusted. And it was just an amazing experience. So afterwards, I felt so light. My anxiety about it was gone. The stress I felt was gone. And I just felt so much better, So now here I am, about 10 weeks postpartum, and I am being more active. I'm walking around. My incision healed great. My body is still like, have normal pregnancy recovery. So there's still like joint issues. My joints are still like, very soft. But overall, I don't regret trying for a VBAC. Like, I'm glad I did. I'm glad I could say that I tried and I don't have to say, well, what if I would have done it, Like, I don't have that. So I'm happy that I went as far as I did with it. And I'm happy that I tried. Whew. So that was a pretty lengthy story. Thank you for watching.